What if I told you that the biggest mistake 99% of men make in their sex life has nothing to do with stamina, size, or technique, and everything to do with something far more subtle, something most men completely overlook? And yet it's the one thing women remember, crave, and emotionally connect to long after the moment is over. Because for women, great intimacy isn't just physical, it's psychological. And the men who understand this don't just create attraction, they create unforgettable experiences. Most men approach intimacy like it's a performance, something to execute, something to get right, something that ends in a specific goal. But what they don't realize is that this mindset alone is what disconnects them from what women actually experience. Because for many women, the experience isn't about reaching a finish line, it's about how they feel throughout the entire journey. The anticipation, the emotional safety, the attention, the presence. And most men skip all of that without even realizing it. Here's the truth that almost no one talks about. Women don't respond most strongly to physical actions alone. They respond to how those actions are delivered, the energy behind them, the awareness, the patience, the ability to slow down instead of rushing forward. And this is exactly where 99% of men fail. They rush, mentally, emotionally, and physically, always moving toward the end instead of staying in the moment. And in doing so, they completely miss what actually creates deep satisfaction. Because what women truly love is feeling seen, not just touched but understood, not just desired but valued in the moment. When a man is fully present, not distracted, not rushing, not treating intimacy like a task, but instead paying attention to every reaction, every shift in energy, every subtle response, that's when everything changes. That's when connection replaces performance. And that's when intimacy becomes something far more powerful. Think about this. If someone is with you physically but mentally somewhere else, you can feel it instantly. And the same applies here. When a man is focused only on himself, or on what to do next, instead of being tuned into his partner, it creates a disconnect, even if everything else seems right. And most men never realize that this is the exact reason their experiences feel average instead of unforgettable. The men who stand out, the ones women talk about, remember, and deeply desire, are not the ones who rush to impress. They are the ones who slow everything down, who build anticipation instead of skipping it, who understand that emotional connection amplifies physical sensation, and who make the experience about both people, not just themselves. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Women are far more responsive to mental stimulation than most men realize. What happens before intimacy often matters more than what happens during it. The way a man speaks, the way he builds tension, the way he creates a sense of closeness and trust. All of this directly impacts how deeply a woman experiences everything that follows. And yet most men ignore this completely. They think intimacy starts in the bedroom. But for women it starts much earlier, in the conversations, the emotional connection, the feeling of being appreciated and understood. And when that foundation is there, everything becomes more intense, more natural, more fulfilling, without needing to force anything. Another thing most men don't do is listen, not just with their ears, but with their awareness. Every person is different. Every woman experiences pleasure and connection in her own way. But instead of paying attention and adapting, many men rely on assumptions or repeat the same patterns over and over again. And this creates a disconnect that builds over time. Because real satisfaction doesn't come from doing the same thing every time. It comes from being present enough to notice what actually works, what creates a reaction and what builds connection, and then responding to that in real time. This level of awareness is rare, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. And then there's patience, something that is almost completely missing in modern intimacy. Everything today is fast, instant, rushed, and that mindset carries over into relationships. But when it comes to real connection, speed is the enemy. The more a man slows down, the more a woman feels. The more anticipation builds, the more meaningful the experience becomes. This doesn't mean doing less. means being more intentional, more aware, more connected to the moment, because when someone feels rushed, they can't fully relax. And when they can't relax, they can't fully experience anything. But when there's no pressure, no rush, no expectation, that's when everything opens up. Confidence also plays a huge role, but not the kind of confidence most men think. Not loud, not forced, not performative, but calm, grounded confidence. The kind that comes from being comfortable, from not needing to prove anything, from being fully present without overthinking. And this kind of energy is incredibly attractive because it creates a sense of safety. And safety is one of the most overlooked aspects of intimacy, not physical safety, but emotional safety. The feeling that you can be yourself, that you won't be judged, that you can fully let go. And when a woman feels that, everything becomes deeper, more natural, more intense, without effort. The reality is, most men focus on the wrong things. They try to improve externally without understanding what actually matters internally. But the men who truly stand out, the ones who create real connection and unforgettable experiences, are the ones who understand that intimacy is not something you do to someone. It's something you create with them. It's a shared experience built on awareness, presence, patience, and emotional connection. And when those elements are there, everything else falls into place naturally. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this: stop rushing, stop performing, stop thinking of intimacy as a goal to achieve, and start treating it as an experience to feel. Because that shift alone is what separates the average from the unforgettable. And it's exactly what 99% of men never figure out.